I was 63 years old when my son-in-law asked me why I was still breathing. Well, not in those exact words. But that's what he meant. That's what I heard in the silence that followed. That's what I felt in the hollow of my chest as 27 pairs of eyes turned toward me at once, forks frozen mid-air, glasses paused at lips, children's laughter dying in their throats. The question was, why are you even here? And let me tell you where I'm starting from, because if you're watching this from your living room in Michigan, or your kitchen in Texas, or wherever you are right now, leave a comment and tell me where you're from. I want to know who's listening. I want to know who understands what it feels like to be erased in a room full of people who are supposed to love you. Because that's what happened to me. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been the one people tolerate instead of celebrate, then you need to hear what I did next. You need to stay with me through this whole story, every twist, every revelation, every moment I thought I'd break. And if you want more stories like this, real stories about real people who fought back when life tried to bury them, check the description box below. I promise you won't regret it. But first, let me take you back to that day. Thanksgiving 2019. My daughter Lily's house in Scottsdale, Arizona, a sprawling ranch-style home with terracotta tiles and a kitchen island bigger than my first apartment. She'd married Trevor Whitmore 3 years earlier, a man who sold commercial real estate and wore his success like cologne. Too much of it. The kind that makes your eyes water. I'd driven 4 hours from Tucson that morning, my Honda Civic rattling over every bump on the I-10, my hands aching from gripping the wheel too tight. I was nervous. I'm not afraid to admit that now. I'd been nervous for months, ever since Lily started returning my calls 3 days late, her voice distant and distracted, always with Trevor's voice in the background, always with some excuse about being busy. But it was Thanksgiving. Family gathers on Thanksgiving. That's what we do. That's what I taught her. The house smelled like butter and rosemary when I walked in, carrying my green bean casserole. The one Lily used to beg me to make every holiday, the one with the crispy onions on top and just a hint of garlic. I'd spent 2 hours on it that morning, my kitchen still dark, my coffee going cold as I stirred and seasoned and tasted. Trevor opened the door. He was wearing a cable-knit sweater the color of oatmeal and jeans that probably cost more than my car payment. His smile was the kind you give a door-to-door salesman. "Barbara," he said. "Just my name. Not hi, Barbara. Not good to see you. Just my name, flat and obligatory. Hello, Trevor." I held up the casserole. "Where should I put this?" He glanced at it like I was offering him a dead animal. "Kitchen's full. Just find a spot." I found a spot on the counter, wedged between a charcuterie board that looked like a work of art and a pie that definitely came from a bakery. My casserole, with its foil covering and Pyrex dish, looked like someone's grandmother had wandered in from 1987. Which, I suppose, I had. Lily appeared from the hallway, her hair blown out in soft waves, her dress the kind of cream-colored linen that only stays clean if you don't actually do anything. She looked beautiful. She looked nothing like the girl who used to climb trees in ripped jeans and come home with dirt under her nails. "Mom." She hugged me, but it was the kind of hug you give at a wake. Brief. Performative. Her perfume was something expensive and floral, and I couldn't smell the baby shampoo and vanilla I used to smell when I held her. "You look wonderful, sweetheart," I said, and I meant it. "Thanks. You too." She didn't mean it. I could tell by the way her eyes flicked down to my slacks, the navy ones I'd bought at Kohl's on clearance, and the blouse I'd ironed 3 times that morning. "Is Dad coming?" she asked. There it was. The question she always asked. The question that reminded me I'd been divorced for 18 years and she still hadn't forgiven me for it. "No, honey. You know he's in Florida with Denise." She nodded. Lips pressed tight. "Right." Trevor reappeared with a tumbler of something amber and strong-looking. "Lily, your cousin just got here. The one from California." "Oh. I should." She touched my arm. "Just make yourself comfortable, Mom. We'll eat in about an hour." And then she was gone, swept into a swirl of voices and laughter that didn't include me. I stood there in that enormous kitchen, surrounded by granite and stainless steel, and I felt like I was standing in a museum. Everything was beautiful and untouchable and not meant for me. I made my way to the living room, where the family had gathered. And I mean family in the loosest sense. Trevor's parents, Richard and Pamela Whitmore, sat in matching armchairs like a king and queen holding court. His 2 brothers and their wives clustered on the sectional, all of them tan and fit and laughing at something on someone's phone. Lily's cousins from her father's side, people I barely recognized anymore, stood by the fireplace. There were children everywhere, running in packs, shrieking, sticker-fingered. I found a spot on the far end of the sectional, next to a woman I didn't know who was bouncing a baby on her knee. She smiled at me politely, the way you smile at someone you'll never see again. "I'm Barbara," I said. "Lily's mom." "Oh." She brightened a little. "I'm Jenna, Trevor's sister-in-law. This is Mason." The baby grabbed my finger, and for just a second, I felt like I was part of something. But then Richard Whitmore stood up and clinked his glass with a heavy ring, and the room fell silent. "Before we eat," he began, his voice booming and confident, "I just want to say how grateful I am to have all of you here. Family is everything. And I'm so proud of Trevor and Lily for building this beautiful home, this beautiful life. Trevor, you've done well, son." Everyone clapped. Trevor stood and took a small bow, grinning. "And Lily," Richard continued, "you've brought so much grace and elegance into this family. We're lucky to have you." More applause. Lily blushed, smiling. He raised his glass. "To family." "To family," everyone echoed. I raised my glass of water. No one looked at me. Dinner was served buffet style. I waited until everyone else had gone through the line, and by the time I got to the table, half the dishes were nearly empty. I took what was left, a spoonful of mashed potatoes, some turkey that looked dry, a sad little pile of salad, and made my way back to my spot. I ate in silence, listening to conversations I wasn't part of. Real estate markets. Vacation homes. Private schools. Someone's new Tesla. Someone else's kitchen renovation. I thought about my apartment in Tucson. The one-bedroom with the water stain on the ceiling and the neighbor who played mariachi music at 2 a.m. I thought about my job at the library, shelving books and checking out patrons who sometimes remembered my name. I thought about my life, which suddenly felt very small. And then, as I was taking a bite of turkey, Trevor stood up again. "Hey, everyone," he said, louder this time. "I just want to make a quick announcement." The room quieted. "Lily and I have some exciting news." My heart jumped. I looked at Lily. She was glowing. "We're expecting," Trevor said. The room exploded. Cheers. Hugs. Richard was clapping Trevor on the back. Pamela was crying and clutching Lily's hands. Everyone swarmed them, a wall of bodies and joy. I stood up, my fork still in my hand, my heart pounding. I was going to be a grandmother. I pushed through the crowd, trying to reach Lily, trying to hug her, trying to tell her how happy I was. And that's when Trevor turned and saw me. His face changed. Not much. Just enough. "Barbara," he said. Loud enough for people to hear. I stopped. He looked at me, then at the crowd, then back at me. And he smiled. But it wasn't a kind smile. "Why are you even here?" The room went silent. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a laugh. Maybe someone to say, "Trevor, what are you talking about? That's Lily's mom." Maybe Lily herself to step in and defend me. But no one said anything. They just stared. And I realized, in that moment, that I'd been asking myself that same question for months. Why was I even here? I didn't answer him right away. I couldn't. My throat had closed up like someone had their hands around it, and my vision went narrow and bright at the edges, the way it does when you're about to faint or scream or do something you can't take back. 27 people stared at me. I counted them later, in my head, over and over again during the drive home. 27 people, and not one of them said a word. Trevor's smile was still there, thin and sharp, waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. I don't know where it came from, maybe from some part of me I thought had died a long time ago, back when my husband walked out, or when I lost my job at the bank, or when Lily stopped calling me Mama and started calling me by my first name. But I looked Trevor Whitmore in his smug, handsome face, and I smiled back. "I'm here," I said slowly, clearly, "because my daughter invited me." I turned to Lily. Her face was pale. Her mouth was open just a little, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Didn't you, sweetheart?" I asked. She nodded. Barely. Like a hostage blinking Morse code. I turned back to Trevor. "So I guess the better question is, why are you asking?" The silence stretched. Someone coughed. A child whined from the other room. And then Richard Whitmore let out a loud, forced laugh and clapped his hands together. Well, let's not let the food get cold, huh? Everyone, dig in. The spell broke. Conversations resumed. People moved. But no one looked at me. I set my plate down on the coffee table, picked up my purse, and walked out the front door. No one followed me. I sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, waiting for Lily to come out. Waiting for her to say, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I don't know what got into him. Please come back inside." She never came. I drove home in the dark, and I didn't cry. Not then. Crying would have meant I was surprised. And I wasn't. I'd seen it coming for years. Let me tell you about the woman I used to be, because she's important to this story. She's the reason I survived what came next. I grew up in a town called Willow Creek, Indiana, population 3,200, where everyone knew everyone, and your business was never really your own. My father was a mechanic. My mother was a seamstress. We didn't have much, but we had enough. I was the oldest of 4 kids, which meant I learned how to cook, clean, and keep the peace before I was 10. I married young. 22. His name was Gene Fairburn, and he was handsome in that boring, reliable way, solid jaw, good job at the power company, a truck he washed every Saturday. We had Lily 2 years later, and for a while, everything was exactly how it was supposed to be. But Gene had a wandering eye. And then wandering hands. And then a whole second life I didn't know about until I found the receipts. Hotel rooms in Indianapolis, dinners for 2, a pair of diamond earrings I never got. I confronted him on a Tuesday. I remember because it was trash day, and I'd just hauled the bins to the curb when he pulled into the driveway. "It's not what you think," he said. "Then tell me what it is," I replied. He couldn't. Or wouldn't. Same difference. He moved out 3 days later. The divorce was finalized 6 months after that. He got the house. I got Lily and a used Honda. People in Willow Creek talked. They always do. Poor Barbara. Can't keep a man. I heard it in the grocery store, at church, at Lily's school events. I held my head up anyway. I worked 2 jobs, one at the bank, one cleaning houses on weekends. I kept Lily fed, clothed, and loved. But the thing about being a single mother in a small town is that people never let you forget you're alone. Every school event, every holiday, every moment that should have had 2 parents only had one. And Lily noticed. She asked about her dad. She asked why he didn't come to her recitals. She asked why we couldn't live in a bigger house. I didn't have good answers. Gene remarried when Lily was 12. A woman named Denise who worked in a dental office and had no kids of her own. Suddenly, Gene had time. He took Lily on trips. Bought her things I couldn't afford. And slowly, so slowly I didn't see it happening, Lily started to prefer him. By the time she graduated high school, I was the backup parent. The one she called when she needed something practical. A ride, money for books, advice on financial aid. Gene was the fun one. The one she told her secrets to. I told myself it was fine. I told myself that's what mattered, that she was happy, that she was loved, that she was going to have a better life than I did. But it hurt. God, it hurt. She went to college in Arizona, Arizona State University, studying communications. I helped her move into her dorm, and I cried the whole drive back to Indiana. I visited twice that first year. She was always busy. After she graduated, she stayed in Arizona. Got a job at a marketing firm. Met Trevor at a networking event. He was older, 34 to her 23, but she said he was mature, stable, successful. Everything she wanted. They got married in a resort outside of Phoenix. It was a small ceremony. 50 people. I wore a dress I bought on sale and sat in the 3rd row. Gene walked her down the aisle. I smiled the whole time. I even hugged him after. Because that's what you do. You smile. You pretend it doesn't hurt. But it did. And then I moved to Tucson, closer to Lily, I told myself, so I could be there if she needed me. I got a job at the library. I rented my little apartment. I waited for her to call. She did. Sometimes. But the calls got shorter. The visits got rarer. And when Trevor entered the picture fully, when they bought that big house and started hosting holidays, I became an afterthought. I told myself I was imagining it. That I was being too sensitive. That she was just busy building her life. But deep down, I knew. I wasn't part of that life. Not really. And that Thanksgiving, when Trevor asked me why I was even there, he wasn't really asking a question. He was saying what everyone in that room already thought. I didn't belong. I drove back to Tucson that night, and I sat in my apartment in the dark, staring at the water stain on the ceiling, wondering how I'd gotten here. 63 years old. Alone. Unwanted. Invisible. And then I got angry. Not the hot, screaming kind of angry. The cold kind. The kind that sits in your chest and hardens into something sharp. Because here's the thing, I'd spent my whole life making myself small. Apologizing for taking up space. Letting people walk over me because I thought that's what love looked like. But I was done. If Trevor Whitmore thought he could erase me, he was wrong. If Lily thought she could let him, she was wrong too. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I didn't hear from Lily for 3 weeks. Not a text. Not a call. Not even one of those generic Happy Thanksgiving, hope you got home safe messages people send when they're obligated to care but don't actually want to engage. Nothing. And if you've ever been ghosted by your own child, you know what that silence feels like. It's not just quiet. It's loud. It screams in the middle of the night when you can't sleep. It echoes in your kitchen when you're making coffee for one. It follows you to work, to the grocery store, to the parking lot where you sit in your car and wonder if you did something so unforgivable that your own daughter can't even pretend to love you anymore. I kept my phone on the loudest setting. I checked it every 10 minutes. I told myself I wouldn't be the one to reach out first, that she owed me an apology, or at least an explanation. But by the second week, I broke. I texted her. *Hi honey. Just wanted to check in. Hope you're feeling okay. Love you. She responded 6 hours later. *I'm fine. Busy with work. Talk soon. That was it. No acknowledgement of what happened. No apology. No sorry Trevor was rude or I wish you'd stayed. Just 5 words and a promise she wouldn't keep. I stared at that message for so long, my vision blurred. And that's when I realized something. I was waiting for her to fix this. I was waiting for her to be the daughter I raised, the one who stood up for what was right, who didn't let people treat others badly, who called me when she was scared or hurt or needed her mom. But that daughter was gone. Or maybe she'd never existed the way I thought she did. Maybe I'd built a version of her in my head, the same way I'd built a version of my marriage, my life, my worth, and reality had finally caught up. I started paying attention after that. Really paying attention. I went back through our text messages from the past 2 years. I read them like I was studying evidence. And the pattern was so clear, I don't know how I'd missed it before. Every conversation started with me. Every plan was initiated by me. Every I love you came from my end, met with a love you too that felt more like punctuation than sentiment. I looked at photos on her social media, pictures I'd been tagged in, pictures from holidays and birthdays. In every single one, I was on the edge of the frame. Half-cropped. Blurry. An afterthought. There was one from last Christmas. Lily and Trevor in front of their tree, arms around each other, both of them glowing. And in the corner, so far in the corner you'd miss it if you weren't looking, there I was. Sitting on the couch. Alone. Out of focus. The caption read, *blessed to spend the holidays with the people who matter most. I wasn't tagged. I went back further. I found her wedding photos. Professional ones, the kind that cost thousands of dollars. There were pictures of her and Trevor. Her and Trevor's family. Her and Jean. Her bridesmaids. Her flower girl. I was in exactly 3 photos. In 2 of them, I was in the background. In the 3rd, I was standing next to Jean and Denise, smiling so hard, my face looked like it was about to crack. I'd paid for half that wedding. I sat on my couch, laptop open, scrolling through the evidence of my own irrelevance, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. Lily hadn't just allowed Trevor to humiliate me. She'd been erasing me for years. And I'd let her. I want to pause here and talk to you. Yes, you, the person watching this right now. If you've ever felt like you're fighting for a place in someone's life, and that person keeps pushing you further and further away, I need you to know something. It's not your fault. You didn't make yourself unlovable. You didn't fail. They did. And if this story resonates with you, if you've ever been the person on the edge of the photo, the one people forget to thank, the one who shows up and gets nothing in return, then do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Tell me your story. Because we need to stop pretending this doesn't happen. We need to stop being silent. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories about real people who were underestimated, overlooked, and then fought back, check the description box below. I've got more for you. Now, back to what happened next. I decided to do something I'd never done before. I called Jean. I know. But hear me out. Jean and I hadn't had a real conversation in over a decade. Our interactions were limited to logistics, splitting costs for Lily's college, coordinating who'd visit her when, polite nods at her wedding. We were civil. Distant. Fine. But I needed to know if he saw what I saw. Or if I really was losing my mind. He answered on the third ring. Barbara. Hi, Jean. Is everything okay? Is Lily? She's fine, I said quickly. I wanted to ask you something. Silence. Do you think Lily's changed? I asked. He sighed. Long and heavy. What do you mean? I mean, do you think she's different than she used to be? Less. I don't know. Warm. Another silence. Then, you went to Thanksgiving, didn't you? My chest tightened. How did you know? She called me after. Said you left early. Said Trevor made some comment and you got upset. He didn't just make a comment, Jean. He humiliated me in front of everyone. And she didn't say a word. I know. I froze. What do you mean, you know? I mean, I know. Trevor's been. Look, Barbara, I didn't want to get into this, but he's not a good guy. Then why didn't you say something? My voice was sharper than I intended. Why didn't you warn me? Or her? I tried, he said quietly. When they first started dating. I told Lily I didn't like him. Told her he was controlling. She didn't want to hear it. And the more I pushed, the more she pulled away. So I stopped. You stopped, I repeated. What was I supposed to do, Barbara? She's an adult. She makes her own choices. She's our daughter. Yeah. And she chose him. I hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, shaking. Jean had known. He'd seen what Trevor was. And he'd said nothing. He'd let Lily marry him. He'd smiled in the wedding photos. He'd played the proud father while I couldn't finish the thought. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment at Thanksgiving. Trevor's voice. His smile. The way everyone just stood there. And I kept thinking about Lily. My little girl. The one I used to rock to sleep. The one who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. The one who used to tell me I was the best mom in the world. Where did she go? Or worse, had she ever really been there? The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg for her love. I wasn't going to apologize for existing. I wasn't going to shrink myself down anymore. But I also wasn't going to let Trevor Whitmore win. I didn't know what that meant yet. I didn't have a plan. But I knew one thing. People like Trevor, people who humiliate others because they can, who thrive on making people feel small, they always have something to hide. And I was going to find it. I'm not a detective. I'm a 63-year-old librarian who still uses a flip phone half the time and has to ask teenagers for help when the printer jams. But let me tell you something, if you've lived long enough, paid attention long enough, and been underestimated long enough, you learn how to see things other people miss. And I'd been watching Trevor Whitmore for 3 years. I started with the basics. The things I already knew. Trevor worked in commercial real estate, buying, selling, leasing office buildings and shopping centers around the Phoenix metro area. He had his own firm, Whitmore Properties Group. Fancy website. Professional headshots. Testimonials from satisfied clients. On the surface, he looked legitimate. Successful. The kind of man any mother would want her daughter to marry. But I'd learned a long time ago that surfaces lie. I went to the library on my day off, not the one I worked at, but the main branch downtown, where they had better computers and faster internet. I signed in, found a quiet corner, and I started searching. First, I pulled up Trevor's LinkedIn profile. 200 connections. Endorsements for negotiation, leadership, strategic planning. A degree from Arizona State University in Business Administration. Graduated 2007. I wrote that down. Next, I searched for Whitmore Properties Group. The website was sleek, modern, full of buzzwords like synergy and innovative solutions. There were photos of Trevor shaking hands with clients, standing in front of gleaming buildings, holding up sold signs. But when I clicked on our team, there were only 2 people listed, Trevor and an assistant named Michelle Ortiz. That struck me as odd. A successful real estate firm with only 2 employees? I kept digging. I found the business registry for Arizona and looked up Whitmore Properties Group. It had been registered in 2015. For years before he married Lily. The listed address was a UPS store in Tempe. A UPS store. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. Why would a successful businessman use a mailbox store as his business address? I wrote that down too. I searched for news articles mentioning Trevor Whitmore. There were a few small press releases about property sales, a feature in a local business magazine from 2017. In the article, Trevor talked about his rapid rise in the industry and his plans to expand into new markets. But there was nothing recent. No big deals. No major sales. Nothing that justified the house, the cars, the lifestyle. I leaned closer to the screen. Where was his money coming from? I spent the next 2 hours going down rabbit holes. Property records. Court filings. Business licenses. I cross-referenced his name with every database I could find. And then I found something. A lawsuit. Filed in 2018. Trevor Whitmore versus Raymond Kowalski. The case summary was sparse, but the keywords jumped out at me. Breach of contract, fraud, misrepresentation. The case had been settled out of court. No details available. But it was there. A crack in the surface. I wrote down Raymond Kowalski's name and kept searching. By the time I left the library, my hand was cramping from writing notes, and my head was buzzing. Trevor Whitmore wasn't who he said he was. I didn't have proof yet, not the kind that would hold up in court or convince Lily, but I had enough to know I was onto something. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I thought about confronting him directly, showing up at his office, demanding answers. But I knew how that would go. He'd deny everything. He'd make me look crazy. And Lily, God, Lily would never forgive me. No. If I was going to do this, I had to be smart. I had to be patient. I had to become the kind of person Trevor would never suspect. So I did something that surprised even me. I called Lily. She answered on the 4th ring. Mom. Hi, sweetheart. I kept my voice light. Casual. I just wanted to apologize. Silence. For leaving Thanksgiving early, I continued. I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't handle it gracefully. I should have said goodbye. Oh. She sounded surprised. Relieved. Even. It's okay, Mom. Yeah. It was a lot. It was, I agreed. But I don't want things to be weird between us. Especially now, with the baby coming. Her voice softened. Me neither. So let me make it up to you, I said. I'd love to take you to lunch. Just the 2 of us. We could go to that little Italian place you used to love. Yeah. That would be nice. How about next Saturday? Saturday works. Perfect. I'll pick you up at noon. We said goodbye, and I hung up, my heart pounding. If you're watching this and you've ever had to pretend everything's fine when it's not, you know how exhausting that phone call was. You know how much it costs to smile through the anger, to swallow the hurt, to play the role of the grateful, apologetic mother when all you want to do is scream. But I did it. Because I had to. Because the only way to get close to Trevor was to get close to Lily. And the only way to get close to Lily was to make her believe I'd forgiven her. That Saturday, I drove to Scottsdale and picked Lily up at noon, just like I'd promised. She looked beautiful, glowing, the way pregnant women do in the early months, even though she couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 weeks along. You look wonderful, I said as she climbed into the car. Thanks. I feel awful, though. Morning sickness is no joke. It'll pass, I said. It always does. We drove to the restaurant, a cozy little place with red checkered tablecloths and photos of the Italian countryside on the walls. We used to come here when she was in college, back when she still called me on Sundays and told me about her classes, her friends, her dreams. Back when I still knew her. We ordered pasta for me, a salad for her. She picked at it, her face pale. Are you sure you're okay? I asked. She nodded. Just tired. Trevor's been working a lot, and I've been trying to get the nursery ready, and, she stopped, laughing a little. I don't know why I'm rushing. We have months. You're excited, I said. That's normal. She smiled. I am. I really am. And Trevor? I asked carefully. How's he feeling about it? Her smile faltered. Just for a second. He's excited too. Good. That's good. We ate in silence for a while. And then I said, as casually as I could, you know, I've been thinking. I'd love to help out more. With the baby, with the house, whatever you need. She looked up at me, surprised. Really? Of course. You're my daughter. And this is my grandchild. I want to be there. Her eyes got a little shiny. I'd like that, Mom. Good. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Then let's make it happen. She squeezed back. And just like that, I was back in. Over the next few weeks, I started showing up more. I brought groceries. I helped her organize the nursery. I made excuses to stop by. I was in the neighborhood. I found this cute Onacy. I made too much soup. And every time I was there, I watched. I listened. I paid attention. I noticed that Trevor's office was always locked. I noticed the way he checked his phone constantly, angling the screen away from Lily. I noticed the way he tensed whenever she mentioned money. And I noticed the mail. One afternoon, I was at their house, helping Lily fold baby clothes, when the mailman came. Trevor was at work. Lily was in the bathroom, dealing with another wave of nausea. I walked to the door and picked up the mail. Most of it was junk. Catalogs. Credit card offers. But there was one envelope that caught my eye. Plain white. No return address. Postmarked from Las Vegas. I turned it over. It was addressed to Trevor. The flap wasn't sealed, just tucked in loosely. I looked toward the bathroom. The water was still running. I pulled the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A statement from a casino. The Bellagio. It showed a balance due. $47,000. I slipped the paper back into the envelope, sealed it carefully, and set it on the counter with the rest of the mail. And I smiled. Because now I had something. $47,000. I couldn't stop thinking about it. That number burned itself into my brain, flashing like a neon sign every time I closed my eyes. $47,000 owed to a casino in Las Vegas. Trevor Whitmore, the man with the expensive sweaters, the sprawling house, the air of unshakable confidence, was drowning in gambling debt. And Lily had no idea. I didn't tell her. Not yet. Because I knew how it would go. She'd defend him. She'd make excuses. She'd say I was meddling, that I was trying to sabotage her marriage because I was jealous or bitter or alone. And maybe part of me was all those things. But that didn't make the debt any less real. I needed more. More proof. More evidence. Something so undeniable that even Lily couldn't ignore it. So I kept watching. Kept visiting. Kept playing the role of the doting, helpful mother-in-law while I catalogued every crack in Trevor's perfect facade. It didn't take long to find more. 2 weeks after I saw the casino statement, I was at their house again, this time helping Lily paint the nursery. She'd chosen a soft yellow, gender-neutral, with white trim. We'd spent the morning taping edges and laying down drop cloths, and by early afternoon, we were both covered in paint splatters and laughing about it. It felt good. For a moment, it felt like old times, like she was my little girl again, and we were just two women doing something simple and normal together. But then Trevor came home. I heard his car in the driveway first, the low rumble of his BMW, the kind of sound that announces itself. The front door opened, and his voice carried through the house. Lily. Upstairs, she called back. His footsteps were heavy on the stairs. When he appeared in the doorway of the nursery, his face was tight. Not angry, exactly. Just strained. Barbara, he said. Flat. Like my name tasted bad. Hello, Trevor. I kept painting, my brush moving in smooth, even strokes. He looked at Lily. Can I talk to you for a second? Sure. What's up? Alone. The word hung in the air. Lily glanced at me, then back at him. Mom's helping me paint. Can it wait? It's important. She set down her brush, wiping her hands on a rag. Okay. Yeah. Just give me a sec. She followed him out into the hallway, and I heard their voices, low, urgent. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. The tone said everything. He was angry. She was defensive. A minute later, Lily came back alone. Her face was pale, her jaw set. Everything okay? I asked. Fine. She picked up her brush, but her hand was shaking. Lily. It's fine, Mom. I didn't push. But I watched her for the rest of the afternoon, the way her shoulders stayed tense, the way she kept glancing toward the door like she expected Trevor to come back and finish whatever argument they'd started. When I left that evening, I hugged her a little tighter than usual. If you ever need to talk, I said quietly, I'm here. She nodded, but she didn't say anything. I drove home slowly, my mind turning over what I'd seen. The strain in Trevor's face. The shake in Lily's hands. The weight of secrets pressing down on both of them. Something was coming. I could feel it. That night, I did something reckless. I went back. Not to their house, I'm not that foolish. But I drove to Trevor's office, the address I'd found online. It was in a nondescript building in Tempe, one of those generic business parks with a dozen companies crammed into identical suites. I parked across the street and waited. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew I needed to see him when he didn't know I was watching. I needed to see the real Trevor, the one he kept hidden from Lily and his family and everyone else. It was nearly 8 o'clock when he finally emerged. He wasn't alone. A woman walked out beside him, tall, dark hair, wearing a pencil skirt and heels that clicked on the pavement. She was laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his arm. I sat up straighter, my heart pounding. They walked to his car together. He opened the passenger door for her. She slid in, still smiling. And then he got in the driver's side, and they drove away. I followed them. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I know. But I'd come this far, and I wasn't about to stop now. They drove to a restaurant downtown, one of those trendy places with Edison bulbs and exposed brick and a menu that doesn't list prices. I parked down the block and watched them go inside. I waited. An hour passed. Then 2. My back ached. My bladder screamed. But I didn't move. Finally, they came out. The woman was leaning into him now, her hand on his chest. He said something, and she laughed, that high, flirty laugh that makes a woman's intentions very clear. They got back in the car. He drove her to an apartment complex on the east side. Walked her to the door. Kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. Not a see you at work tomorrow kiss. A kiss that erased any doubt about what was happening. I sat in my car, hands gripping the wheel, watching him drive away. And I thought, Lily's pregnant with his child, and he's kissing someone else. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to their house right then and tell Lily everything. The debt, the woman, the lies. But I didn't. Because I knew it wouldn't be enough. Not yet. Trevor was good at talking his way out of things. I'd seen it at Thanksgiving, the way he'd humiliated me and then laughed it off like it was nothing. The way everyone had let him. If I went to Lily now, with just this, a casino bill, a dinner, a kiss, he'd explain it away. He'd call the woman a business associate. He'd say the debt was an investment gone wrong. He'd make me the villain for spying, for invading his privacy, for trying to destroy their marriage. No. If I was going to take Trevor down, I needed something bigger. Something he couldn't deny. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I followed him. I documented his movements. I took photos, grainy, distant, but clear enough. I tracked his spending using the receipts Lily sometimes left on the counter. I cross-referenced his calendar, which Lily kept on the fridge, with his social media check-ins. And I found a pattern. Every Thursday night, Trevor told Lily he had a business dinner. Every Thursday night, he went to the same apartment complex. The same woman's door. Her name was Vanessa Cho. I found that out by waiting in the parking lot one morning and following her to her car. Her name was on a gym bag in the back seat. I looked her up. She worked at a marketing firm, the same one where Lily used to work before she quit to focus on preparing for the baby. They'd probably met through Lily. The thought made me sick. But I kept going. Kept collecting. Kept building my case. And then, one Thursday in late January, I got the break I needed. I was parked outside Vanessa's apartment, waiting for Trevor to arrive, when I saw another car pull up. A black Escalade. Expensive. Tinted windows. Two men got out. They were big, not tall, but broad, the kind of men who took up space on purpose. They wore suits, but the suits didn't make them look professional. They made them look dangerous. They walked to Trevor's car, he'd just pulled in, and knocked on his window. I slouched down in my seat, my phone out, recording. Trevor got out. His face was pale. His hands were up, placating. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to. I could see it in his body language, the way he flinched, the way he kept glancing around like he was afraid someone would see. One of the men shoved him. Not hard. Just enough to make a point. Trevor nodded quickly, his mouth moving fast. Apologizing. Promising. The men got back in their Escalade and drove away. Trevor stood there for a long moment, hands on his knees, breathing hard. Then he got back in his car and left. He didn't go to Vanessa's apartment. He went home. I sat in my car, my hands shaking, my heart racing. I didn't know who those men were, but I knew what they represented. Trevor Whitmore wasn't just in debt. He was in deep. And it was only a matter of time before that debt came crashing down on everyone around him, including Lily, including my grandchild. I drove home that night, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to let Trevor destroy my daughter's life. It was time to act. You ever notice how the biggest moments in life don't announce themselves? They don't come with fanfare or warning labels. They just happen. And before you realize it, you're standing in the middle of something you can't undo, watching the pieces fall in directions you never anticipated. That's how it was for me in February 2020. It started with a phone call. I was at work, shelving returns in the biography section, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost didn't answer. We weren't supposed to take personal calls on the floor, but something made me look. Lily. I stepped into the break room and answered. Hi, sweetheart. Mom. Her voice cracked. Can you come over? What's wrong? Is it the baby? The baby's fine. Just, please. Can you come? I was in my car 10 minutes later. The whole drive to Scottsdale, my mind raced through possibilities. Miscarriage. Trevor left her. An accident. Something medical. Something terrible. But when I got to the house, Lily opened the door looking physically fine. No bruises, no blood, no signs of distress. Just broken. Her eyes were red. Her face was swollen. She'd been crying for hours. What happened? I asked, stepping inside. She closed the door behind me and leaned against it, like she needed it to hold her up. I found out, she whispered. Found out what? She laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Everything. My stomach dropped. Lily. The debt. The woman. All of it. I froze. How? His phone. She pushed off the door and walked toward the kitchen. I followed. He left it on the counter this morning. It kept buzzing. I thought it was work, so I looked. She trailed off, staring at nothing. I prompted gently. And there were texts. From her. From someone named Vanessa. She said the name like it tasted rotten. They've been sleeping together for 8 months. 8 months, Mom. Since before we found out I was pregnant. I didn't say anything. I just pulled out a chair and sat down, letting her talk. And then I started looking at other things. Bank statements. Credit card bills. Trevor's been hiding them from me, but he has them saved in his email. We're broke, Mom. Worse than broke. We owe money to casinos, to loan sharks, to, I don't even know who. Over $200,000. 200,000. The number hit me like a slap. He mortgaged the house without telling me, Lily continued. Took out loans in both our names. Maxed out credit cards I didn't even know we had. And all of it, he's been gambling it away or spending it on her. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were empty. I don't know what to do. I wanted to say, I tried to tell you. I wanted to say, I saw this coming. I wanted to scream that I'd known, that Trevor was poison from the start. But I didn't. Because this wasn't about being right. Where is he now? I asked. At work. Or at least that's what he said. I don't know if I believe anything anymore. Have you talked to him? She shook her head. I can't. If I see him, I'll. She pressed her hands to her face. I'm pregnant, Mom. I'm 4 months pregnant, and my husband is a liar and a cheat and a... She broke down then, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I stood and wrapped my arms around her, holding her the way I used to when she was little and the world felt too big and scary. It's going to be okay, I whispered. How? She choked out. How is any of this going to be okay? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I knew one thing. This was my moment. The moment I'd been waiting for. The moment I could finally step in and show Trevor Whitmore exactly who he'd been underestimating. Listen to me, I said, pulling back so I could look her in the eye. You're not alone in this. Do you hear me? You're not alone. I feel alone. I know. But you're not. I'm here. And we're going to figure this out. She nodded, wiping her eyes. What do I do? First, you call a lawyer. I can't afford. I'll pay for it. She blinked. Mom, you don't have. I'll figure it out, I said firmly. You need a lawyer. Someone who specializes in divorce and fraud. Someone who can protect you and the baby. Divorce, she repeated, like she was testing the word. Unless you think you can stay with him after this. She closed her eyes. No. I can't. Then you need to move fast. Before he knows you know. Before he can hide more money or take out more loans or disappear. How do you know all this? She asked, looking at me with something like awe. I almost told her then. Almost admitted that I'd been investigating Trevor for months. That I'd followed him, photographed him, documented everything. But I didn't. Because if she knew I'd been spying, she'd feel betrayed by me too. She'd question whether I'd done it for her or for my own vindication. And right now, she needed to trust me completely. I've lived long enough to know how men like Trevor operate, I said. And I'm not going to let him destroy you. She hugged me again. Tight. Thank you, Mom. Don't thank me yet, I said. We've got a fight ahead of us. Over the next 2 weeks, I became Lily's general. Her strategist. Her backbone. I found her a lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Hale who didn't mince words and didn't back down. I paid the retainer with money I'd been saving for a new car. It didn't matter. Lily mattered more. We gathered evidence. Bank statements. Emails. Text messages. Photos. And when Patricia asked if there was anything else, anything that might prove Trevor's recklessness or infidelity, I handed over everything I'd collected. The casino statements. The photos of him with Vanessa. The video of the men in the Escalade. Patricia's eyes widened. Where did you get all this? Does it matter? I asked. She smiled, a small, approving smile. No, it doesn't. On March 1st, 2020, Lily moved out of the house. We'd planned it carefully, waited until Trevor was at a business meeting, code 4, with Vanessa, then packed her essentials and got her out. She moved into my apartment. It was cramped, 2 women and a growing belly in a 1-bedroom, but we made it work. Trevor called 63 times that first night. Lily didn't answer. He showed up at my apartment the next day, pounding on the door, shouting her name. I opened it. Just a crack. She doesn't want to see you, I said calmly. Barbara, this is none of your business. It became my business when you humiliated me at Thanksgiving. It became my business when you lied to my daughter. It became my business when you put my grandchild at risk. His face twisted. You don't know what you're talking about. I know about Vanessa. I know about the debt. I know about the men who came to collect. Should I keep going? He stared at me. And for the first time since I'd met him, Trevor Whitmore looked scared. Lily will talk to you when she's ready, I said. Until then, leave us alone. I closed the door in his face. And I smiled. Because he finally knew. I wasn't the woman he thought I was. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't weak. And I sure as hell wasn't going away. But here's the thing, and this is where the story takes a turn even I didn't see coming. Trevor didn't just go away quietly. Men like him never do. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something told me I should. Hello. Is this Barbara Fairburn? A man's voice. Deep. Formal. Who's asking? My name is Detective Luis Ramirez. I'm with the Scottsdale Police Department. I need to ask you some questions about Trevor Whitmore. My blood went cold. What kind of questions? The kind best asked in person. Can you come down to the station? I looked at Lily, who was sitting on the couch, her hand on her belly, watching me with wide eyes. I'll be there in an hour, I said. And just like that, everything got a whole lot more complicated. The Scottsdale Police Department smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. I sat in a grey room with a table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs that looked like they'd been there since 1987. Detective Luis Ramirez sat across from me, a file folder open in front of him, his expression unreadable. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with close-cropped hair and tired eyes. The kind of tired that comes from seeing too much. Thank you for coming in, Mrs. Fairburn, he said. Ms., I corrected. I'm divorced. Ms. Fairburn. He nodded. I'll get right to it. We're investigating Trevor Whitmore for fraud, embezzlement, and possible connections to organized crime. My heart hammered in my chest, but I kept my face neutral. Okay. We've been building a case for 6 months. We have evidence of illegal gambling operations, loan fraud, and money laundering. And we believe your daughter may be implicated. No. The word came out sharp. Lily had nothing to do with whatever Trevor's been doing. Can you prove that? Can you prove she did? He studied me. We have bank statements showing joint accounts used in fraudulent transactions. Loans taken out in both their names. Properties purchased under shell companies that list her as a co-owner. She didn't know, I said. Trevor handled all their finances. She trusted him. That's what she told us too. My stomach dropped. You've already talked to Lily? This morning. Before we called you. I wanted to run out of that room, drive back to my apartment, and hold my daughter. But I forced myself to stay still. What did she say? That she only just found out about the debt and the affair. That she's filed for divorce. And that you've been helping her gather evidence. He paused, watching me. She also said you've been following Trevor for months. My mouth went dry. I was worried about my daughter, I said carefully. Worried enough to tail him? To photograph him? To conduct surveillance on his business partner? His mistress, I corrected. His mistress, Ramirez agreed. Who, by the way, is also under investigation. I blinked. Vanessa. Vanessa Cho. She works for a marketing firm that's actually a front for a money laundering operation. We believe Trevor's been funneling money through her company for over a year. I sat back in my chair, my mind reeling. Ramirez leaned forward. Here's the thing, Ms. Fairburn. You're not in trouble. Not yet. But you've inserted yourself into an active investigation, and that complicates things. So I need you to tell me everything you know. Everything you've seen. Everything you've documented. Why should I trust you? Because if you don't, and this case goes sideways, your daughter could end up facing charges as an accessory. But if you help us, I can make sure that doesn't happen. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, I want immunity. For Lily. In writing. He smiled, just barely. I'll see what I can do. We talked for 2 hours. I told him everything. The casino statements. The affair. The men in the Escalade. The pattern of lies and secrecy. I gave him copies of every photo, every receipt, every note I'd taken. And when I left that police station, I felt lighter, like I'd finally handed the burden to someone who could carry it. But I also felt afraid. Because once the police were involved, I couldn't control what happened next. Lily was waiting for me when I got home, pacing the tiny living room like a caged animal. What did they say? She demanded. Mom, what's going on? I told her. Everything. The investigation. The charges. The immunity deal we were negotiating. She sank onto the couch, her face pale. This is insane, she whispered. This is like something out of a movie. I know. How did I not see it? How did I marry someone like this and not know? I sat beside her. Because he hid it. Because he's good at lying. Because you loved him and wanted to believe the best. I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You're human. She looked at me, her eyes shining. You knew, didn't you? From the beginning. I hesitated. I didn't trust him. Why didn't you say something? I tried. You didn't want to hear it. She flinched. I know. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. For everything. For how I treated you. For letting Trevor. Stop, I said gently. We don't have time for apologies right now. We have to focus on keeping you safe. And the baby. She put her hand on her belly. What if they arrest me? They won't. I won't let them. Over the next 3 weeks, our lives became a whirlwind of lawyers, depositions, and police interviews. Patricia worked around the clock to negotiate Lily's immunity deal. Ramirez kept us updated on the investigation. And Trevor spiraled. He lost his real estate license. His assets were frozen. Vanessa was arrested, and according to Ramirez, she'd started cooperating with prosecutors, which meant she was handing them everything they needed to bury Trevor. He called Lily constantly, left voicemails that ranged from apologetic to furious to desperate. Please, Lily. I love you. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. Don't let your mother poison you against me. That one made me laugh. Poison her. As if I'd needed to do anything at all except show her the truth. In early April, Trevor showed up at my apartment again. This time, he wasn't pounding on the door. He was sitting in the hallway when I came home from work, his back against the wall, his head in his hands. He looked terrible. Unshaven. Rumpled. Like he hadn't slept in days. Trevor, I said carefully, you need to leave. He looked up at me. His eyes were bloodshot. I need to talk to her. She doesn't want to talk to you. Please, Barbara. I'm begging you. You should have thought about that before you gambled away her future. He stood up slowly, and for a second, I thought he might try to push past me. But he didn't. He just stared at me with something like hatred. This is your fault, he said quietly. You turned her against me. You couldn't stand that she was happy. She wasn't happy, I said. She just didn't know how miserable she was supposed to be. His jaw tightened. You're going to regret this. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I stepped closer to him. Close enough that I could see the fear hiding behind his anger. Let me tell you something, Trevor. I've survived a cheating husband, a town that shamed me, raising a daughter alone, and decades of being invisible. You don't scare me. And if you ever come near my daughter or my grandchild again, I will make sure you regret it far more than I ever could. He stared at me. Then he turned and walked away. I watched him go, my hands shaking. And I realized something. I wasn't just protecting Lily anymore. I was protecting myself. For the first time in my life, I was standing up, not just for someone I loved, but for me. In late April, the story broke. Local news picked it up first. Scottsdale real estate agent arrested in multimillion-dollar fraud scheme. Then the bigger outlets. Phoenix businessman faces federal charges. Trevor's face was everywhere. And so was mine. Someone had leaked my name, identified me as the key witness who'd provided evidence. My phone started ringing. Reporters. Strangers. People I hadn't talked to in years, suddenly curious about my life. Lily was horrified. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't think they'd. It's fine, I said. And I meant it. Because for once, people weren't looking at me with pity. They were looking at me with something else. Respect. But the attention came with consequences. 2 days after the story broke, I got a call from the library. Barbara, we need to talk, my supervisor said. I was put on leave. Pending the resolution of the investigation. They said it was policy. That they couldn't have an employee involved in a high-profile criminal case. I'd worked there for 8 years. And just like that, I was out. I told myself it didn't matter. That once this was over, I'd find something else. But it hurt. Lily cried when I told her. This is all my fault. No, I said. This is Trevor's fault. And we're going to make sure he pays for it. On May 15, 2020, Trevor Whitmore was formally indicted on 17 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and racketeering. His bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't pay it. So he sat in jail. Waiting for trial. And Lily and I, we started to rebuild. She filed for divorce. The proceedings were fast-tracked given the circumstances. By June, it was finalized. She kept her maiden name, went back to being Lily Fairburn. And on July 22, 2020, in a small hospital room in Tucson, I held my grandson for the first time. Lily named him James, after my father. I want him to know where he comes from, she said, tears streaming down her face. I want him to know the people who fought for him. I looked down at that tiny, perfect face, and I thought about everything we'd been through to get here. The humiliation, the fear, the anger. And I thought, it was worth it. Every single second. But the story doesn't end there. Because 2 months later, I got a phone call that changed everything again. It was Detective Ramirez. Miss Fairburn, we have a problem. Detective Ramirez's voice was tight, controlled. The kind of control that tells you someone's trying very hard not to panic. What kind of problem? I asked, my stomach already sinking. Trevor made bail. I gripped the phone harder. How? You said he couldn't afford it. Someone posted it for him. We don't know who yet. It was done through a bail bondsman, and the source is obscured. But he's out, as of 3 hours ago. My blood ran cold. Where is he? We don't know. He's supposed to be wearing a monitor, but he removed it 20 minutes after his release. He what? He's in violation of his bail conditions, which means there's a warrant out for his arrest. But until we find him, I need you and Lily to be very careful. Lock your doors. Don't go anywhere alone. If you see him, call the police. I know. I hung up and immediately went to Lily's room, the bedroom I'd given her while I slept on the couch. She was nursing James, her face soft and peaceful in a way I hadn't seen in months. Lily, I said quietly, we need to talk. Her face changed the moment she saw my expression. What happened? I told her. The color drained from her face. She clutched James tighter. He's going to come here. We don't know that. Mom, yes we do. He blames us for everything. He's going to come here. She was right. I knew she was right. Then we'll be ready, I said. I called Patricia. She advised us to file for a restraining order immediately. We did. A judge granted it within hours, given Trevor's bail violation and the nature of the charges against him. But a piece of paper wouldn't stop Trevor if he really wanted to hurt us. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with all the lights off, a baseball bat across my lap, watching the door. Every sound made my heart race. Every car that passed. Every voice from the neighboring apartments. But Trevor didn't come. Not that night. Not the next day. For 3 weeks, we lived in a state of suspended terror. The police couldn't find him. He'd gone completely off the grid. No phone activity. No credit card transactions. No sightings. It was like he'd disappeared. Lily barely left the apartment. She was terrified to take James outside, convinced Trevor would be waiting. She started having nightmares, waking up gasping, reaching for the baby, checking and rechecking the locks. I watched my daughter unravel, and I felt helpless. This was supposed to be over. We'd won. Trevor was supposed to be in jail, awaiting trial, paying for what he'd done. But instead, he was out there, watching, waiting. Or so we thought. On August 18th, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Is this Barbara Fairburn? A woman's voice. Shaky. Scared. Who is this? My name is Vanessa Cho. I froze. I know you hate me, she continued quickly. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need to talk to you. It's about Trevor. What about him? I know where he is. My heart stopped. Where? I can't tell you over the phone. But I'm scared. He's not stable. And I think he's planning something. Planning what? I don't know. But he called me 2 days ago. Drunk. Angry. He kept saying he was going to fix everything. That he wasn't going to let you take everything from him. Why are you telling me this? She was quiet for a moment. Then, because I have a little sister. She's 23. And if someone did to her what I did to Lily, I'd want someone to warn me. I didn't know what to say. There's a coffee shop on Mill Avenue in Tempe, Vanessa said. Perk City. Meet me there tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll tell you everything I know. Why not just go to the police? Because Trevor has friends. People who owe him favors. People who scare me more than jail does. If I talk to the police, I'm dead. But if I talk to you... She trailed off. Maybe you can stop him before he does something we'll all regret. She hung up before I could respond. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. It could be a trap. Vanessa could be working with Trevor, luring me out so he could, what? Hurt me? Kill me? But what if it wasn't a trap? What if she really did know something, and I ignored it, and Trevor hurt Lily or James? I couldn't risk it. The next morning, I told Lily I had an errand to run. I didn't tell her about Vanessa. She was already barely holding on. I didn't need to add more fear to her plate. I drove to Tempe, to the coffee shop Vanessa had named. It was busy, college students with laptops, parents with strollers, the low hum of conversation and espresso machines. Vanessa was sitting in the corner, wearing sunglasses indoors and a hoodie pulled low. She looked nothing like the confident, polished woman I'd seen with Trevor. She looked terrified. I sat down across from her. Talk. She slid a phone across the table. This is a burner. Trevor gave it to me a year ago. He said to use it if I ever needed to reach him without anyone knowing. I looked at the phone. And... he's been texting me from another burner. Look at the messages. I picked up the phone and scrolled through. The texts were incoherent. Rambling. Angry. Asterisk they think they can destroy me. Asterisk they're wrong. Asterisk. Asterisk Barbara thinks she's so smart. She has no idea what's coming. Asterisk. Asterisk I'm going to take everything from her the way she took everything from me. Asterisk. Asterisk starting with Lily. Asterisk. My hands started shaking. There were more. Dozens of them. Getting progressively darker, more unhinged. Asterisk I know where they live. I've been watching. Asterisk. Asterisk that apartment with the broken security camera. 3rd floor. Unit 3C. Asterisk. Asterisk they think they're safe. Asterisk. Asterisk they're not. Asterisk. The last message was from yesterday. Asterisk tomorrow night. It ends tomorrow night. Asterisk. I looked up at Vanessa. Tomorrow night is tonight. She nodded, her face pale. I know. You need to take this to the police. Right now. I can't. Trevor has photos of me. Videos. Things that would destroy my life if they got out. He said if I ever betrayed him, he'd release them. He's going to hurt my daughter. I know. Her voice broke. That's why I'm telling you. So you can protect her. But I can't go to the police. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She stood up and walked out of the coffee shop. And I sat there, holding a phone full of threats from a man who had nothing left to lose. I called Detective Ramirez from the parking lot. Told him everything. He said he'd send patrol cars to my apartment immediately, that they'd station officers outside, that they'd find Trevor before tonight. But I knew how these things worked. I'd seen enough news stories, heard enough horror stories from other women. The police would do their best. But their best might not be enough. So I drove home, and I made a plan of my own. I got to the apartment before the police arrived. Lily was feeding James, humming softly, completely unaware of what was coming. Lily, I said. I need you to pack a bag. For you and James. Just essentials. She looked up, confused. Why? Because we're leaving. Right now. Mom, what? Trevor's planning something. Tonight. I don't have time to explain, but we need to go. Her face went white. Oh my God. Pack. Now. She moved fast, throwing diapers, clothes, formula into a bag with shaking hands. I grabbed my purse, my phone, the baseball bat I'd been keeping by the door. We were almost out when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Deliberate. Coming toward our door. Lily heard them too. She clutched James to her chest, her eyes wide with terror. The footsteps stopped outside our apartment. A knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Then Trevor's voice. Calm. Almost friendly. Lily. I know you're in there. We need to talk. I put a finger to my lips, signaling Lily to stay quiet. Lily, please. I just want to talk. I miss you. I miss us. Silence. Barbara. His voice changed. Harder. I know you're in there too. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you won. I didn't move. You destroyed my life. My career. My reputation. Everything I built. And for what? Because I asked you a simple question at Thanksgiving. My heart pounded so hard I thought he might hear it through the door. You want to know why I asked why you were even there? His voice was rising now. Because you're a miserable, bitter old woman who couldn't stand to see your daughter happy. You poisoned her against me. You turned her into Trevor. My voice came out steady, strong. The police are on their way. You need to leave. He laughed. No, they're not. You're bluffing. Try me. Silence. Then, open the door, Barbara. No. Open the door. He slammed against it. Once. Twice. The whole frame shook. Lily stifled a scream. I'm going to count to 3, Trevor said. And if you don't open this door, I'm going to break it down. And when I do, we're going to have a very different conversation. 1. 2. Police. Step away from the door. I'd never been so grateful to hear those words in my life. Trevor's footsteps scrambled. Running. Away from the door, toward the stairwell. Stop. Police. More footsteps. Shouting. A crash. And then silence. I opened the door a crack. 2 officers were standing in the hallway. One spoke into his radio. The other approached us. Are you Barbara Fairburn? I nodded. You and your daughter need to come with us. We have a safe location arranged. Did you get him? Lily asked, her voice small. Did you get Trevor? The officer hesitated. He ran. But we have units pursuing. We'll find him. We spent that night in a hotel room paid for by victim services. 2 officers stood guard outside. Lily and I barely slept, taking turns holding James, jumping at every sound. They found Trevor the next morning. He'd been staying in a motel on the outskirts of Phoenix, paying cash, using a fake name. When the police surrounded the building, he barricaded himself in his room. The standoff lasted 4 hours. He finally surrendered when they cut the power and he realized he had no way out. Detective Ramirez called me with the news. He's back in custody. No bail this time. And with the violation, the threats, the attempted break-in, he's looking at additional charges. He's not getting out, Ms. Fairburn. Not for a very long time. I closed my eyes. Thank you. No, he said quietly. Thank you. If you hadn't come forward with that information from Vanessa, if you hadn't called when you did, things could have ended very differently. He was right. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. 3 weeks later, we moved. I used what was left of my savings and took out a small loan to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in a different part of town. A place Trevor didn't know about. A place with better security and neighbors who actually looked out for each other. Lily started seeing a therapist. She said it helped. She said she was working through the betrayal, the fear, the guilt of not seeing who Trevor really was. And slowly, so slowly, we started to heal. But here's something nobody tells you about situations like this. Even when the danger is gone, even when the bad guy is behind bars, the fear doesn't just disappear. Lily still checked the locks 3 times before bed. I still kept the baseball bat in my closet. We both still flinched at unexpected knocks on the door. Trauma doesn't end when the story does. It lingers. It reshapes you. But so does survival. And we were survivors. In September, Trevor went to trial. The prosecution had mountains of evidence, the documents I'd collected, Vanessa's testimony, the victims who'd lost money in his schemes. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. On all counts. The judge sentenced him to 18 years in federal prison. Lily and I weren't in the courtroom. Patricia represented us. She called afterward with the news. It's over, she said. And finally, it was. But this story isn't just about Trevor getting what he deserved. It's about what happened after. About the parts of ourselves we found in the rubble. About the strength we didn't know we had until we needed it. And about one final moment, the moment this whole story has been building toward, that happened 2 months after Trevor's sentencing. The moment when everything came full circle. And when I finally answered the question Trevor had asked me that Thanksgiving. In November 2020, exactly 1 year after that Thanksgiving, Lily and I were invited to another family gathering. Richard and Pamela Whitmore were hosting. Trevor's parents. The people who'd sat in their matching armchairs like royalty while their son humiliated me. I'll be honest, when the invitation came in the mail, a formal card with gold lettering, I laughed. They can't be serious, I said to Lily. She was on the floor, helping James practice tummy time. He was 4 months old now, with chubby cheeks and Lily's eyes. I don't know, she said quietly. Maybe we should go. I stared at her. Why would we do that? Because they reached out. Because they apologized. They apologized. She nodded. Pamela called me last week. She said they wanted to make amends. That they felt terrible about everything that happened. About how they treated us, treated you, that night. I picked up the invitation and read it again. Asterisk, please join us for Thanksgiving dinner. We would be honored by your presence. Asterisk. It could be a trap, I said. It could be sincere. After everything Trevor did? After everything they watched him do to you? Lily looked at me. Really looked at me. Mom, if we don't go, we're letting what happened control us. We're letting fear win. And I don't want to live like that. Not anymore. I understood what she was saying. I even admired it. But I'd spent too much of my life giving people the benefit of the doubt, letting them hurt me, forgiving them because it was easier than fighting. I need to think about it, I said. But deep down, I already knew I'd go. Not because I'd forgiven them. Not because I believed they'd really changed. But because I wanted them to see me. See what I'd become. See that I wasn't the broken, invisible woman who'd walked out of their house a year ago. I wanted them to see what they'd underestimated. The gathering was at the same house, the sprawling ranch in Scottsdale with the terracotta tiles and the too big kitchen. When Lily and I pulled into the driveway, my hands were shaking. You okay? Lily asked. No, I said honestly, but let's do this anyway. She smiled. A real smile. That's my mom. We walked to the door together, Lily carrying James in his car seat. I'd worn my best dress, a simple navy blue one I'd bought specifically for this occasion. I'd done my hair, worn lipstick. I looked good. Better than good. I looked strong. Pamela answered the door. She'd aged since I'd last seen her, more grey in her hair, more lines around her eyes. She looked smaller somehow. Deflated. Lily. Barbara. Her voice was soft. Almost timid. Thank you for coming. Of course, Lily said. We stepped inside. The house looked the same. But it felt different. Quieter. Less like a museum and more like a place where people actually lived, and grieved. There were fewer people this time. No crowd of cousins and extended family. Just Richard and Pamela, Trevor's 2 brothers, Ethan and Marcus, and their wives. Marcus. I'd forgotten one of them was named Marcus. But he went by Mark, so I figured it was fine. It felt fine. Different enough. They all stood when we entered the living room. Awkward. Uncertain. Richard stepped forward. He looked older too. His shoulders weren't as broad. His voice wasn't as booming. Barbara, he said. Thank you. For coming. I know we don't deserve. You don't, I said simply. He flinched. But Lily wanted to be here. And I want to support my daughter. So here we are. He nodded. I understand. And I want you to know, both of you, how deeply sorry we are. For everything. Sorry doesn't undo what happened, I said. No. It doesn't. Pamela's voice. She stepped forward, tears in her eyes. But we need to say it anyway. We failed you. We failed Lily. We let Trevor, her voice broke. We let him become someone we didn't recognize. And we made excuses. We looked the other way. And we're so sorry. I studied her face. Looking for insincerity. For manipulation. But all I saw was pain. Real, raw pain. Our son is in prison, Richard said quietly. And he deserves to be there. What he did to you, Lily, what he did to all those people, it's unforgivable. We know that. But he's still our son, Pamela whispered. And we'll spend the rest of our lives wondering how we missed it. How we raised someone capable of that. The room was silent. Then Lily spoke. You didn't raise him to be that way. He made his own choices. Pamela looked at her with such gratitude, I thought she might collapse. You're kind to say that, she said. Kinder than we deserve. Dinner was awkward. Stilted. Everyone was trying too hard to be polite, to avoid the elephant in the room, or rather, the absence in the room. But something shifted halfway through. Ethan's wife, Jessica, asked to hold James. Lily handed him over, and Jessica's face just melted. He's beautiful, she whispered. Thank you, Lily said. What's his full name? James Eugene Fairburn. Pamela looked up sharply. Eugene? Like my grandfather, Lily said, looking at me. My mom's father. Pamela's eyes filled with tears again. That's lovely. And then Richard did something I didn't expect. He raised his glass. A toast, he said. To James. To new beginnings. And to the women who protect him. Everyone raised their glasses. Including me. We finished dinner. We had pie. We made small talk about safe topics, the weather, James's milestones, Lily's plans to go back to work part-time. And then, as we were getting ready to leave, Richard pulled me aside. Barbara, he said. Can I ask you something? Sure. That night. Last Thanksgiving. When Trevor asked you why you were there. My stomach tightened. What did you want to say? Before you left. What did you really want to say to him? I thought about that moment. That horrible, humiliating moment when 27 people had stared at me and no one had spoken up. I wanted to say that I was there because I'm her mother, I said slowly. Because I carried her for 9 months. Because I raised her alone when her father left. Because I worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over her head. Because I taught her to ride a bike and helped her with her homework and held her when she cried. I was there because I earned the right to be there. Richard nodded, his eyes red. You did. And I'm sorry we made you feel otherwise. It's not your apology I needed, I said. It was Lily's. And I got that. Months ago. When she chose me over him. He smiled sadly. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. We left shortly after. Lily buckled James into his car seat, and I started the car. As we pulled out of the driveway, Lily said, that wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. No, I agreed. It wasn't. Do you think they meant it? The apology? I thought about that. Yeah, I think they did. Does it change anything? No, I said honestly, but it closes something. Puts a period on it. She nodded. Good. We drove in silence for a while. Then Lily said, Mom. Yeah. What would you have said to Trevor that night, if you could go back? I'd thought about that question 1,000 times over the past year. I'd imagined all the things I could have said. The cutting remarks. The perfect comebacks. But the truth was simpler. I would have said exactly what I did say, I told her. I'm here because my daughter invited me. Because that was the truth. And the truth was enough. Lily reached over and squeezed my hand. And I realized something. I'd spent so much of my life trying to justify my existence to people who didn't care. Trying to earn love from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth it. But I didn't need to do that anymore. Because the people who mattered, Lily, James, even myself, we knew my worth. And that was enough. It's been almost 5 years since that Thanksgiving. Since Trevor asked me why I was even there. Since everything fell apart and came back together in ways I never could have imagined. I'm 68 now. My hair's more grey than brown. My hands ache on cold mornings. I wear reading glasses that I'm constantly losing. But I'm still here. And that matters more than you might think. Let me tell you what happened after that second Thanksgiving. After the apologies and the awkward dinner and the tentative peace. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. It never does. But it became mine. I found a new job, not at a library this time, but at a community center, teaching computer literacy to seniors. Teaching people like me that it's never too late to learn something new. To reinvent yourself. To take up space in the world. I love it. I love seeing the pride on their faces when they send their first email or video chat with their grandchildren for the first time. I see myself in them. The people who were told they were too old, too obsolete, too irrelevant. And I get to show them that's a lie. Lily finished her degree, the one she'd put on hold when she married Trevor. She's working at a non-profit now, helping domestic violence survivors rebuild their lives. She says I inspired her. That watching me fight for her showed her what strength really looks like. I tell her she had that strength all along. She just forgot for a while. James is 5 now. He starts kindergarten next fall. He loves dinosaurs and building blocks and asking questions that have no answers. He calls me Nana, and every time he does, my heart expands in a way I didn't think was possible at my age. He'll never remember Trevor. He'll grow up knowing his father made bad choices and hurt people, but that those choices don't define him. And he'll grow up knowing his Nana fought like hell to protect him before he was even born. Lily and I live in a modest 2-bedroom house now, not an apartment, a real house with a small yard where James can play. We saved up together, split the down payment, made it work. It's cramped sometimes. We get on each other's nerves. But it's ours. And every night, after James is asleep and Lily's in her room, I sit on the back porch with a cup of tea and I think about how far we've come. Trevor's still in prison. He'll be eligible for parole in 2031. Lily says she won't go to the hearing. Says she's said everything she needs to say. I believe her. Vanessa reached out once, about a year after everything ended. She sent a letter, handwritten, pages long, apologizing again, explaining herself, asking if there was any way to make amends. Lily burned it. I didn't stop her. Some things can't be fixed. Some people don't deserve forgiveness, no matter how sorry they claim to be. And that's okay. Gene, Lily's father, my ex-husband, he comes around sometimes. Not often. But more than he used to. He and Denise divorced last year. He said he finally understood what I'd gone through. What it felt like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. I told him I appreciated that, but I didn't need his understanding anymore. I'd moved on a long time ago. The Whitmores, Richard and Pamela, they're part of James's life now. Not a huge part, but they come to birthday parties, send cards, contribute to his college fund. They're trying. And I respect that. But they're not family. Not really. Family is the people who show up when it's hard. Who fight for you when you can't fight for yourself. Who see you when everyone else looks through you. Family is Lily, holding my hand in that hospital room while I held my grandson. Family is James, climbing into my lap and asking me to read him a story. Family is me, looking in the mirror and finally recognizing the woman staring back. Someone asked me recently, a reporter doing a follow-up piece on Trevor's case, if I regretted anything. If I wished I'd done things differently. And I thought about that. Really thought about it. Did I regret marrying Gene? No. Because that gave me Lily. Did I regret the years I spent invisible, apologizing for existing? Maybe. But those years taught me resilience. Taught me how to survive. Did I regret investigating Trevor, following him, inserting myself into a dangerous situation? No. Not even for a second. Because if I hadn't, he would have destroyed my daughter. My grandson. Maybe even me. And I wasn't going to let that happen. The reporter asked one more question. What would you say to Trevor now? If you could say anything. I thought about the last time I'd seen him, in the courtroom during sentencing, his face hollow and defeated, his expensive suit wrinkled and too big. And I realized I had nothing to say to him. He'd asked me why I was even there. And I'd answered him. Not with words that day, but with everything that came after. I was there because I was a mother. I was there because I refused to be erased. I was there because I had every right to take up space in my daughter's life, in my grandson's life, in my own life. And no one, not Trevor, not his family, not anyone, could take that away from me. So here's what I want to say to you. Yes, you, the person who's been listening to this whole story. The person who maybe sees themselves in me. Who's felt invisible, unwanted, dismissed. You belong. Wherever you are, whatever room you're in, whatever family gathering or job or relationship makes you feel small, you belong. Not because someone gave you permission. Not because you earned it. But because you exist. And your existence matters. If my story showed you anything, I hope it's this: it's never too late to fight back. To stand up. To stop apologizing for taking up space. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be young or successful or important by anyone else's standards. You just have to be you. And that's enough. More than enough. I'm 68 years old. I live in a small house in Tucson with my daughter and grandson. I teach seniors how to use computers. I have arthritis and crow's feet and a voice that's softer than I'd like. But I'm not invisible anymore. I'm not irrelevant. I'm not someone people look through. I'm Barbara Fairburn. And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So the next time someone asks you why you're even there, whether it's at a family gathering or a job or anywhere else, I want you to remember something. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them proof. You don't owe them anything. Because you know why you're there. And that's all that matters. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for staying with me through every twist and turn. If you found something here that resonated with you, if this story gave you even a moment of recognition or hope or strength, then it was worth telling. And please, check the description box below for more stories like this. Real stories about real people who refused to disappear. Who fought back when the world tried to silence them. Who proved that it's never too late to reclaim your life. Because that's what this is really about. Not revenge. Not justice. Reclamation. Taking back what was always yours. Your worth. Your voice. Your place in the world. So wherever you're watching from, whatever city, whatever country, whatever quiet corner of the world, leave a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me where you're from. Because we're all in this together. And none of us are invisible anymore.